learned guest কে জিজ্ঞেস করব। তাই প্রোগ্রাম শুরু করার আগে আমাদের ইন্টারেক্টিভ সেশন you need to ask your questions in the comment box. I would present my screen for the questions in the comment box. I, on your behalf, will ask the question from our learned guest. এটা একটা রিকোয়েস্ট, ইন্টারেক্টিভ সেশনে নিজের প্রশ্ন কমেন্ট সেকশনে দেবেন নিজের নাম সহকারে। আমি আপনাদের প্রশ্ন আমাদের লার্নেড গেস্টকে জিজ্ঞেস করব। তাই প্রোগ্রাম শুরু করার আগে আমাদের ট্র্যাডিশন হচ্ছে আমরা ন্যাশনাল অ্যান্থেম দিয়ে প্রোগ্রামটাকে শুরু করি। সো নাও আই উড প্রেজেন্ট মাই স্ক্রিন ফর দ্য ন্যাশনাল অ্যান্থেম।
तव शुभ नामे जागे नमन भाग्य विधाते तव जय जाव सिंधु चरण मनोरथ हृदय आनंद विधाते हिमाचल यमुना जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you all. Now I would like to request our principal ma'am, Dr. Lona Mukhopadhyay ma'am, to kindly say a few words, ma'am. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hello everybody. আমাকে শোনা যাচ্ছে তো?
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
Hello everybody. A very good afternoon. It is my pleasure and I am privileged to welcome Dr. Saurabh Gupta in this
now,
national webinar, who is a senior assistant professor of Central University Odisha and director of Nandini Korapu. He will be delivering his speech on the topic communications for development, analyzing the role of cultural idioms. Am I very interesting topic?
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
I hope that all participants will be enjoying a very good afternoon. This topic is my pleasure and I am privileged to welcome Dr. Saurabh Gupta in this national webinar, who is a senior assistant Dr. Professor of Central University Technical Assistant and Director of Nandini Korapu, the host and faculty of Freire-Pedagogy College on the topic and communications for development, analyzing the all participants' cultural idioms. Without very interesting topic, the webinar has no meaning. I hope that all participants will be enjoying past this topic and the webinar the lockdown in the educational sector Dr. Ratan Kumar Nandi, the GB president, a proper educational practice and guidelines are necessary Dr. Tulima for the benefit of the students, technical assistant. Webinar is such a platform, the host and faculty of subject experts, teachers and mentees and technical staff virtual platform. All participants the relevant topic without the presence of their choice. The webinar so has I hope no that meaning. Students as well as teachers and all participants will be benefited. We are from this webinar, the lockdown in the educational have a nice day and wish a great success of this proper educational practice and guidelines are necessary
Thank you, ma'am.
for the benefit of the students.
Thanks a lot.
And
now
webinar
I
is
would like
such
to
a
request
platform for
our
students,
chief guest
subject
and
experts, teachers
our president
gather
of our
in a
governing
common
body,
virtual
Rishi
platform
College
to
for Women.
discuss the
I invite Dr. Ratan Kumar
of
Nandi
their
sir to
choice.
kindly
So
say
I
a few
hope that
words, sir.
students
So, sir,
as well
over
as
to you, sir.
teachers and all participants will be benefited from this webinar and have a nice day and wish a great success of this webinar. Thank you.
কারণ যে বিষয়টি আছে
Thank you, ma'am.
Communication for development.
Thanks a lot.
Analyzing
Now
the
I would like to request our chief guest and our president of our governing body, Rishi College for Women. I invite Dr. Ratan Kumar Nandi sir to kindly say a few words, sir. So, sir, over to you, sir.
আমার কিছু মেসেজ আছে এই ডিপার্টমেন্ট বাই খুব বেশি কথা বলার সুযোগ নেই কারণ যে বিষয়টি আছে কমিউনিকেশন ফর ডেভেলপমেন্ট অ্যানালাইজিং দ্য কালচারাল ইডিয়ম সত্যি ব্যাপারটা আমার কাছে একটু জটিল মনে হচ্ছে মনে হচ্ছে বলে আমি শুনি এটার জন্য একটা যেহেতু ডিপার্টমেন্ট অফ জার্নালিজম অ্যান্ড মাস কমিউনিকেশন বিভাগ থেকে এটা করা হচ্ছে সেই জন্য আমার কিছু এটাও আমরা আছে লক্ষ্য করি এই ডিপার্টমেন্ট বা এই পেশার সঙ্গে যুক্ত যে সমস্ত মানুষ আছেন যারা ভারতবর্ষের যে হাউসগুলো রয়েছে যারা এগুলোকে ডমিনেট করে বিভিন্ন সংস্থাগুলো তাদের চালাতে গিয়ে বা চলতে গিয়ে সাধারণত বিশেষ এটার জন্য একটা আরো খোলামেলা বলা যায় যারা সরকারি তারা পৃষ্ঠপোষকতা পায় তাদের সঙ্গেই পরিচালিত হচ্ছে এটা খুব তবে এটাও আমরা দুঃখের সঙ্গে লক্ষ্য করি এবং যারা এই পেশার দিনে থাকেন যে এবং ভবিষ্যতে যারা হবেন এখন ছাত্র আছেন যে তীব্র লড়াই রয়েছে যারা এগুলোকে ডমিনেট করে বিভিন্ন সব সত্ত্বেও একটা জনমতের যারা দেশকে সঠিক চলতে চালানোর চেষ্টা করা সাধারণত বিশেষ গোষ্ঠী যুক্ত আছেন আমি খোলামেলা বলা যায় যারা সরকারি আমি আজকে অপেক্ষা তারাই পরিচালিত হচ্ছে যেটা খুব তারা কি বোঝানো চাইছেন এবং যারা কালচারাল এরিয়া থাকেন কালচারাল ইডিয়ামস একটা এখন ছাত্র আছে সোশ্যাল সায়েন্সের দিক থেকে একটা তীব্র লড়াই বুঝিয়ে করতে হয় ঠিক বা আমি লিটারারি সব সত্ত্বে একটা জনমত তৈরি করা দেশকে সঠিক পথে চালানোর চেষ্টা করার জন্য আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাই যারা জলকে যুক্ত আছে ডিপার্টমেন্টের সাধুবাদ জানানা করছেন এবং আমি যোগাযোগ করে কয়েকজন অপেক্ষা নামগুলো আমার কাছে যে লেখা নেই বোঝাতে চাইছি আমি ডেভেলপমেন্টে আছি অ্যানালাইজিং দ্য কালচারাল রয়েছি কালচারাল ইডিয়ামস ধন্যবাদ জানাই আমি বক্তাদের স্বাগত জানাই জামাল ম্যাডামকে আমি ঠিক বা আমি জানাচ্ছি তিনি ইডিয়ম বা এই প্রতিকূল পরিস্থিতির মধ্যে ততটা আমার কাছে অর্থাৎ নয় এই আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাই লকডাউন শুরু হওয়াকে এবং যে ডিপার্টমেন্ট জড়িত যারা প্রতিচ্ছেদ এবং তার মধ্যে যোগাযোগ করে কয়েকজন বিদগ্ধ মূল লক্ষ্য নামগুলো আমার কাছে লেখা নেই তৈরি করে আমি সেই কাজটা এগিয়ে আছি একটা পৃষ্ঠপোষকতার মধ্যেই রয়েছি যারা এর সঙ্গে যুক্ত তাদের ধন্যবাদ জানাই বক্তাদের আমি স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি প্রিন্সিপাল ম্যাডামকে আমি অভিনন্দন জানাচ্ছি তিনি এই প্রতিকূল
thanks a lot sir.
Thank you.
অর্থাৎ
Now, I would like to remind the participants again that during the conducting of the webinar, I would request each and every participant to kindly mute their mic so that there is no interruption on the part of the participants. And second of all, during the interactive session, you need to write down your questions in the comment box so that I can put up your questions in front of our learned guests. I suppose thanks a lot to all of us. Now, I would request I would like to remind the participants mass communication that during the conducting of the webinar, I would kindly introduce our resource person their mic so that there is no interruption on the part of the participants. And second of all, during the interactive session, you need to write down your questions in the comment box so that I can put up your questions in front of our learned guest. I suppose the rules are clear to all of us. Now, I would request
analyzing the role of cultural idioms organized by Department of Journalism and Mass Communication,
Professor Ujjwal Ganguly, to
IQAC
kindly introduce
Rishi Bankim Chandra College for Women.
I would request Ujjwal.
Before
It's over to you
introducing
now.
our resource person, I am audible on behalf of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. Good afternoon, thank you all for women. Today, National my heartfelt thanks and gratitude on communication, Principal Madam, for development, analyzing the role of cultural idioms organized by Department of Journalism and Mass Communication and IQAC, IPMI Rishi Bankim Chandra College for Women. To our Honorable GB President, sir, resource person, Dr. Ratan Nandi, sir, on behalf of the department, has spared some time and joined the webinar in his busy schedule. We are really pleased. My heartfelt thanks and gratitude. Then I convey my thanks to our IQAC coordinator, Ronam Khubadhai. Without her support and encouragement, always guide and assist us. Thank you, sir. Organized. And then I pay my special thanks to respect Dr. Tuliba Madam, to our Honorable GB President Madam, for constant Dr. Ratan Nandi sir support. Sir has spared some time and joined the webinar in his all the dignitaries participants. We are really pleased for sir. Then I convey my thanks to our IQAC coordinator support team, Shohardo Roy and Nidul Kanti Bhomik, who always guide and assist us. Thank you, sir. Today our research person is Dr. Saurabh Gupta. Special thanks to Senior Assistant Professor of Journalism and Mass Communication, Madam, Central University for constant technical support. Dr. Gupta is PhD and specializes in communication for development media, aesthetics and gender and cultural studies. Departmental teacher. He has teaching experience of technical support team Shohardo Roy and distinction of teaching in 3 states. Students between 2008 today our research person is Dr. Saurabh Gupta, Central University Professor of Journalism and Mass Communication, and from 2012 University of Odisha. He is teaching at the Central University of Odisha and specializes in communication for development media, aesthetics and gender and cultural studies. As a senior assistant professor in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, he has the rare distinction of publishing 35 research papers in reputed academic journal and as book chapters presented papers in 20 seminars and delivered 25 invited lectures as a resource person teaching at the Central University of Odisha. He is a member of editorial board of where he is presently serving journal as a senior assistant professor in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. And Dr. Gupta has published 35 research papers in reputed academic journal and as book chapters, Dr. presented papers in 20 seminars and delivered 25 invited lectures and directing person in prestigious place for. He is a member of editorial board of. He is the state resource person for the Department of Culture and has guest edited and Shongit Natok Academy Theatre and Communication issue of the Global Media Theatre Indian edition and is the founder editor of Theatre Scripts Journal from Academic International Academic Journal on Theatre Arts since 2007 with an experience of writing and has contributed for 2 decades in the field of journalism, mass communication and culture. Long list of information. He is the state resource person for the Department of Culture, Government of Odisha. Thank you all. Shongit Natok Academy, New Delhi. Dr. Saurabh Gupta, our resource person, 4 books on theatre. Thank you all. Is the founder editor of Theatre Scripts Journal and the International Academic Journal on Theatre Arts since 2007. Dr. Gupta has contributed more in the field of journalism and mass communication and culture. Long list of information also has. So let us go on the discussion. Over to Dr. Saurabh Gupta. Thank you all. Dr. Saurabh Gupta, over to Dr. Saurabh Gupta, our resource person to the webinar.
I would
Thank you all.
Seek your permission to present the screen. Thank you, Professor Ganguly, for your generous introduction. And I would like to start by congratulating Rishi Bokim College for Women, especially principal, the president of the governing body. Personally, it's a very happy moment for me and my dear students. And especially because I would seek your permission to be able to give a presentation in my home state. And also because after a long time I'm meeting Professor Jilkot Mamun, with whom I have very sweet memories. Exactly 22 years back, I had the privilege of spending a couple of days. Personally, it's a very, I don't know whether Professor Mamun remembers it or not. Anyway, I'm very happy because so I will straight away go to my presentation, give a presentation in my home. Can you see my screen and am I audible? Also because
yes, sir.
See the screen, okay, with whom I have very sweet memories. So I have titled my presentation years back as I had already been informed of spending a couple of days analyzing the role of culture. I don't know whether Professor Mamun remembers it or not. As I have been told by Professor Ganguly that so I will straight away go to my presentation, which can you see my screen and am I audible? There are students in the audience.
Yes,
try to make my presentation. Yes, sir. See the screen as simple as possible. And basically, this is I have titled my presentation very personal in nature, and I would like to share communication for development, analyzing the role of culture, the discipline of mass communication. So, as I have been told by Professor Ganguly, in our country, unfortunately, gives a lot of emphasis on the mass media, the corporate. There are students in the audience, especially the newspaper. Therefore, I'll try to make my presentation television as simple as possible. Popular radio, basically, this now is the social media. Something and understandably so in nature. And I would like to share a few things. These are the things. These are the media which provides the discipline of mass communication and journalism. Through this presentation, our country, unfortunately, gives a lot of emphasis on especially the mass community in the corporate-owned mass media, especially to the broader field of the television communication, the popular radio, and now the social media. It is and understandably so communication to all of you, because still these are the basic tenets of communication employment to start with. As we know that through this presentation, I would throughout the day like to thought process divert the attention of especially the student community in the discipline of mass communication. It is a broader field of what is known as communication. It involves, it is needless to explain communication to all of you. Communication process requires basic channels of communication, which again start with shape, as we know that the content and design of the thought process goes on inside us. We all know that even that content has to be prepared for television. It is a sociological phenomenon. Report has to be written for newspaper. It involves different people. There are moods for it. And the reaction to communication process requires a channel or a medium on the education, which again, the level of understanding and the society, the content and design of a very broad, complex sociological process. We all know that content has to be prepared for television, communication with development. Report has to be written. Development again, newspaper, can be categorized into two parts. One is there are development for it, and there is a road to communication. When there is a new bridge, we say that depends on the education, the level of understanding, today, and the society in which we live in. Attracting it's a very broad, complex sociological process. The development, when we relate self, communication with development, the development of the psyche, development again, the development can be categorized into two parts. Cognitive faculties. One is material development, and there is a road media. When there is a new communication is, we say basically that development has taken tool of transformation. Today, there is no guarantee that attracting bring about the transformation, but human development. It always aids the development. It acts as a self catalyst of transformation. The development of the psyche. Basically, when we use media and communication, cognitive to bring about a transformation, we depend on that vital and basic and communication is, which is known as IEC in the development tool of transformation. If you go, there is no guarantee that any development bring about a transformation. Specialist or a development aids transformation. He will tell you that information, catalyst and communication are the three main important factors. Basically, when we use media and communication and the framework to bring about any transformation, development communication, we depend on three vital and basic elements, which is now as I say cultural development sector. I would like to go to referring any development, a set of specialists or a development which is going on for time immemorial. He will tell you that information, education, and communication set of systems three main important people get habituated to, which norm the backbone and the legal framework provision of any development communication campaign, and arts, which man practice. Now, when I say cultural idiom, everything I would like to say that all the human practices, a set of systems, making food, which is going on for time immemorial, marriage, to professions, set of systems which people get habituated to. When I say cultural idiom, legal basically I'm provisions to those beliefs of communication and art which are integral to our practice in the society. Part of our civilization culture. All the human practices through a brief practice of making food, civilization, and the development of marriage. As you know that it was a habit of the ancient man to roam about hunting for. When I say cultural idiom, and at the end of the day, referring, they would gather those around the fire communication, and they would describe our days integral experience to each other, which that is how part of our civilization. Mind. I would take you through a brief short form of the word of mimesis, civilization, and the development of communication. So, as you know that it was a habit. Language had not developed to roam about. So it is the body which was used as a and at the end of the day, they would gather the ancient man used, and they would describe their days and different parts of the body, and that is how to communicate with mime. The word this is which is an universal language, mimesis, which means to imitate. After that, so when man learned to express, language had not developed that time. So it is the body about which was used as a set of alphabets. Painting, cave paintings. The ancient man used, we have our own hand, his legs, his eyes, and different parts of the body. As language developed, communicate with slowly and gradually. This is came about an universal language of communication. After that, you can see a photograph when man learned to express Ashoka's king experiences, edicts, stories. We know about the even ancient as the artistic faculties, painting, cave paintings of Egypt developed. We have started making statues, cave paintings also of deities. As they brought their imagination into reality through the stones, slowly and gradually came about newer wherever we go in throughout our country in different here parts on the screen. You can see a photograph of the replication of the King Ashoka's edict, stone edict, beautiful sculpture. Even and as the artistic faculties inside human beings, which is again developed form of communication, they started making traditional communication, which is deities. They brought their imagination into reality through the stones, the rituals. Mainly the religious rituals. Wherever we go in throughout there is a ritual for every stage of our country. Right from birth, the temples to find attaining of puberty, beautiful to marriage and birth of a child, to which is professional rituals, communication, a traditional communication, which at every stage of life, very very Indian in nature. We have the rituals. Associate mainly the religious rituals. Performances there is a ritual for every stage of life, beginning of our civilization. Right from birth, this is basically what came to attaining of puberty, the folk or the traditional marriage. The meaning of the birth of a child basically refers to common to professional rituals, people, and culture of the villages. At every stage of life, with every worship, there is a performance. There are songs and performances associated. There are and this, which basically performances have been practiced. We have heard about the ancient beginning of ritual of Dionysus. This is basically what came to be known as drama, the folk or the traditional media. We have the meaning of the word folk basically refers to common people. So many kinds of rural cultural idioms. The culture of the village. Every province, with every worship, we have there is a performance. There are songs, traditional media. There are theaters, which not feasible for me to describe. We have heard about the ancient our country, ritual of Dionysus. Our country is a huge country. Gave birth to theater, and but drama. Just to for the students, basically, we have glimpse of what we have in own country. We have I'm basically so many kinds of about the two states which cultural I represent. So in every province, West Bengal and Odisha separate. So there are so many kinds of forms in every district of West Bengal and Odisha. Not feasible for me to describe all the forms of Alkap in Murshidabad. Our country is a huge country. Bhadu, but just to our very own Torjagan, a glimpse of what we have. Remember the famous scene from basically talking here about the two states which duel of songs. The Janmabhoomi and the Uttam Kumar and West Bengal and Odisha. Hola Moira and there are so many kinds of now forms in every district all the traditional forms of communications. The down south here of Malda, if you see on the right side the photo, show in this is Kalari Payuhadu Tushu from Kerala. Our very own Torjagan's Jatra. I hope you remember the famous. In Odisha we have and Daskatia, the Mughal duel of songs. Pala between Pala is practiced in northern Odisha districts like Baleshwar. Jaleshwar, a legend, Baripada. So these are all the traditional forms of communication. In the southern down south, we have Java. If you see on the right side the photo, Gajapati, Kalari Payuttu. We have Ravana Chaya, and on the left we have a very strong tradition of puppetry. In Odisha, we have Daskati, shadow puppetry. Mughal, we have string puppetry. and Pala puppetry in Bengal. Pala is practiced in northern Rajasthan, like Baleshwar, Jaleshwar. On the right side, you can see Desiya Natok. Prahlad Natok, this is from again the place where I southern part of Odisha, speaking from right now, the Koraput district of Odisha. Gajapati. It is a tribal theatre form. We have Ravana tribal forms are known as we have a very strong tradition of puppetry. Theatre. Ravan Chaya is basically shadow puppetry. After we have string puppetry, civilization and rod puppetry gave birth to. We have Kathputli in Rajasthan language, and on the right side you can see Desiya Natak. Slowly and gradually, this came the classical where I belong. I am speaking Sanskrit right now. The Koraput district of with the development of Sanskrit language, tribal theatre form, plays and books, tribal forms are known as Desiya. And Nata, Bharat Muni's Nata Shastra became a Bible for after performing arts. This civilization and rituals gave birth to, there have been very famous books, language like Tarungini, different folk Nalanda and Takshila became slowly and gradually center of education, the hub of classical tradition of ancient India. The Sanskrit Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Karna, with the development of Sanskrit language, exquisite plays and books were written in every language throughout the world. Bharat Muni's Nata Shastra became a Bible, classical elements in them. Performing they can be termed as classics. There have been very famous books, British like invasion of India, with Nalanda and Takshila, European the theatre center of education, the hub of education practice, ancient India, especially in started Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Karna Bharam, slowly and gradually plays which are performed in every language throughout the world. It also gave birth to the first professional classical in 1872 when Girish can be termed as classics, and Ardhendu Shekhar Mustafi started the great national theatre. British invasion of India. This was a very landmark event, the European history of arts, theatre, because this is for the first time when, especially a person started from Kolkata in a country which was divided by casteism like and racism could sit in the first row. It also gave birth to the first professional theatre in 1872 when use of money, that is by buying a ticket. Mustafi started the great public theatre or the Shadharan Rangalaya, as this was a very landmark event, had such a massive impact on the society because that it drew for the first time even people like a person in Sri Ramakrishna country to the theatre, which was divided by casteism and racism, could sit slowly in the and first row of the as the political fabric of simply by our country use of money started transforming by buying a ticket. Arts also underwent transformation. Public theatre or the Shadharan Rangalaya, the Indian People's Theatre Association in 1942 had such a massive impact on the society basically that it was formed to protest against people like the fascist regime of the British. Sri Ramakrishna also to the theatres, imperialistic forces in the world. Slowly and gradually gave birth to as the political fabric of cultural expression. Our country started transforming. Bijan Bhattacharya's also underwent transformation, becoming a runaway hit. The Indian People's Theatre Association in 1943, as it is known as that IPTA basically was formed to the suburbs and the villages of Bengal, fascist regime of the British, and also the fields, imperialistic new aesthetics and a new form of theatre evolved. And this gave birth to a totally new idiom of not only theatre expression. IPTA with Bijan Bhattacharya's impact on music also becoming a runaway hit. People like Sholil Chaudhary as it was performed in open air, coming up with a, as it is totally known as that brand of theatre, leftist to the suburbs and the villages of Bengal, which had a message which was markets composed with the purpose and a new aesthetic people of mobilizing people evolved to protest against all kinds of exploitation. Not only theatre, and the notion came that art is not for art's sake only. Impact on music also, people's sake. With people like Sholil Chaudhary and Himangu Vishwas coming up in post-colonial India, totally new brand of seeing that there have been experiments music which had a message which was instrumental in bringing the left regime of into starting people of mobilizing people magnanimous to protest against all kinds of exploitation in the 60s. And the notion came that art, Badal Sarkar had a very different notion of aesthetics for the people's sake, formed his own open theatre, which was again post-colonial very Marxist in nature. We have seen that there have been experiments The first theatre being folk, the second was instrumental in bringing the left regime, and the third West Bengal which Badal Sarkar magnanimous was a theatre which was basically in the 60s people, by the people, and Badal Sarkar had a very different notion of aesthetics. Now coming to the development own communication scenario, which was again very much the background, which was known as the media in our country. The first theatre being folk, after the second theatre being classical Sanskrit, our leaders, and the third theatre. They framed the development path was a theatre, they strategized, basically, they could not ignore this cultural and of the people. If you go through the document of the first now coming to the development communication scenario, very categorically the background emphasize of the media in our medium of communication. After there should be a blend of the traditional media as well as our leaders, the modern mass media. They framed the development path. By that time, they strategized, already introduced. They could not ignore these cultural idioms. So a blend of, if you go through the traditional and modern media was plan recommended by it was the government. Very categorically emphasized that the song and drama medium of communication under the there should Ministry be a blend of the traditional media as well as presently the modern mass media. The song and drama you should remember that no more exists. By that time, has been the British had already introduced field publicity in our country. So a blend of traditional and modern media basically had recommended by the government of empaneling different cultural accordingly. The traditional artists who would incorporate the message of development under the into their art, Ministry of Information, who would compose songs, choreograph dances, the song write and produce drama. No more exists. It has in their own medium, the field publicity, the language which their people understand. So, but they will the song and drama division basically had a mandate of empaneling information, cultural education, communication, the traditional artists who would incorporate the message of with information by their art, who would compose songs ranging on a choreographed range of issues, right from health, drama, to education, in their own awareness, the language all sorts of their people understand, interventions, but the government contain the message of development. I see today information, education, cultural groups, they go to the interior remote villages and those troops, they were trained, they were supplied with information, musical shows and drama on Beti Bachao, ranging on a different range of issues, starting from health to education and awareness of government schemes. All sorts of. So that started as early as the government schemes. And I must say that the government of India, even that today, time, at the very visionary cultural groups, they go to the realize remote villages of our country of communicating in the people's language. Musical shows and drama on now. Beti Bachao, Beti I will come to the international developments which were taking place in the arena of development communication and all sorts of government schemes. The total scenario. So that started of our world as early as we discussed anything. And I must say that the government of India in an academic time, we cannot avoid the secondary movement because that changed. They realized it has become a very important turning point of any academic discourse. It changed the shape of the world. I will come to the international developments which were taking place in the United Nations of Development Communication in 1945. The total scenario was of our world, whenever we discuss or anything would or we can say that it took upon itself in an academic bent to we cannot reorganize the Second World War because that changed. It has become a very important turning point of any academic also discourse. The countries of changed Latin the shape America, of the world. The entire paradigm of all the places which were affected due to the United Nations and in 1945, people in social sciences and in economics entrusted with the responsibility about the Bretton Woods Conference, or we can say it took upon itself the responsibility methodology of development, reorganize by the way of Euro economic grants, Euro loans, and also aid the countries of Latin America, newly formed decolonized countries, all the places which like were affected India, due to the Second World War, and we all know. people, these countries, social sciences and in were under the British Empire for a long Woods Conference, when they were decolonized, when methodology of development, the way of these countries, economic grants and loans. For example, India didn't have the technology of even making to the newly formed decolonized countries. So like India, they needed funds. Pakistan. They needed rapid development. These countries were under the British Empire for a long time. The necessity was felt when they were decolonized. Mass media should when the British for bringing about a withdrew from this condition in the lives of the people. For example, India didn't have the technology of right making from this point, Alpin, the entire notion of thinking about development communication changed. They needed rapid development. Scholars of communication like Wilbur Scram, Daniel Lerner, Everett Rogers felt that all of mass media, the stress emphasized on the use of bringing about a tangible transformation in the lives. Scram was invited by the government them aware. He spent considerable time in India. And he was the first point behind the entire notion of thinking about Scram strongly argued that television should be the medium. Scholars of communication like Wilbur Scram, Daniel Lerner, in his Everett Rogers, that the project all of them satellite instructional television emphasized on the use of launched mass media. And in fact, Scram was invited by experimental basis. TV sets were supplied to 50 households. And he was the person, and agriculture-based televisions were especially Scram strongly argued that television, so that is how the television medium experiment took off in India. And today, it was in his behest satellite technology, Project Television has become the most popular television experiment of communication was launched. And also, I would like to mention in an experimental basis, the social TV sets were supplied to 50 households. Today, you have the world in your agriculture-based productions where especially do almost everything for them. From getting information, so that is how the television and the social media has become so powerful now that due to satellite technology, to the television has become the most popular medium of the medium of television. Even cinema, also, I would like to mention the onset of COVID-19, the social media might with a smartphone. Today you have the world in your. All this looks very rosy. I mean, you can do almost everything. Very positive. From getting information and seeing news, that is exactly where social media has become so powerful. Draw your attention that it is also threatening to the television. Several committees were set up in our country threatening for the development medium of television. Even a lot of money was invested, and with the onset of COVID-19 partnership with the United States, all 1990 there was revolution in the television sector. Very positive. Foreign television networks coming in to the Indian market. That is exactly where the Indian market, I would like to draw your attention, is flooded with bad channels. Several committees were set up in our country. We have FM radio, private and government. Lot of money was invested. We have the social media. We entered into partnership with the United States. Still, today, in 1990, there was a revolution sitting right in the television sector. A remote place in Odisha. Television networks coming to the Indian market. The Indian market report says today is flooded with 13% of thousands and thousands of TV have electricity. We have FM radio. 4% of the people has access to internet. We have the social media. So, if we are talking about a development communication still based on mass media, in Koraput district, where I am sitting powered by technology and remote place in Odisha, the Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana report says 75% of only 13% of the people have. So this is where exactly we critic only the mass 4% of the people has access to internet. So it's very funny that talking about a development communication plans and strategies based on mass media and based content on media which is powered by technology in the capital, electricity, and is thrown. Do we leave out blocks and panchayats, which forms some people 75% of air-conditioned rooms in the capital? So this is where exactly we critic the mass media Kolkata or in New Delhi communication. They can understand. It's very funny that in India are the problems which people plans and strategies or of content of communication, and they are made providing solutions in the form of communication is thrown to them into the. So we are basically all these years what we have been doing is we have sit in air-conditioned rooms. We in the capital have never thought maybe in that a person or in Kolkata or in New Delhi, he doesn't. They can understand what are the problems which you'll be astounded to know that in the Narayanpatna block of Koraput, there is a particular tree providing in the entire block in the form of communication under which if you stand. So we are basically all these years what we have been doing. Otherwise you cannot even call a person on mobile. We this is a fact. Have never in thought 2020 we have that a person kind of places in India of Odisha, not only in Odisha or West Bengal, to use a smartphone. Any particular state. Go to the villages, astounded to know that remote places, Narayanpatna block of Koraput places of any state, there is a particular tree in the entire block, and under which, if you stand, only then you get the mobile network. Buy a net pack. Otherwise, you cannot even call a person. How do you purchase a Jio unlimited plan? This is a fact. In 2020, we have these kind of places. Okay, India, say for the not only in Odisha or West Bengal, you go to any particular state there. You go to the villages. Electricity has also remote places. The internet is also there. Places of any state, you'll find. Does that guarantee that and the development the money and development communication packages by a net pack which we are preparing? How do you will be understood in letter and spirit by the people of our villages? Okay, here comes, say for the argument's sake, question of ideally presume that the money is there. We electricity has also come. That internet is also there. Basically making still programs that carry the cities. That the creators of our content are basically development middle and packages, higher middle class, which we are preparing, educated in, will be understood in letter and spirit. And they are creating the content for the rural people. Here comes the very important question of where we have such a diverse linguistic pattern throughout our country that we are go to Bankura Purulia programs, the Bengali which is spoken in Bankura Purulia, the creators of our content are basically and Bengali and spoken in Kolkata, higher middle class, educated in the Western education. In one state, we are getting so many versions of the content Bangla language. The rural people of our country. The other day, just in the last week, we have such a diverse linguistic examination throughout our country at Vishwabharati. If you go to Bankura Purulia department online, the Bengali which is spoken in Bankura prepared his PG dissertation, which is spoken in Midnapur, Gram Panchayat which is spoken in Kolkata. He is saying that the woman of that particular block. In one state, we are trying to understand the language of the language soap operas. The other day, because they don't have any other option. In the last week, there is a TV set in the examination entire locality of say 300 university. There is one TV set department online. Every evening, the woman who has gathered his PG and they are basically trying to understand this Gram Panchayat of Birbhum. He is saying that the woman of that particular block, they are trying to understand the language of the TV soap operas because they don't have any other option. There is a TV set in the entire locality of say 300 people. There is one TV set. Every evening the women they gather and they are basically trying to understand this modern Bengali language, the Kolkatan Bengali language, which is pronounced by the actresses of the TV serials. So the question of media literacy is there. And this is how all these years we have been actually trying to address the issue of underdevelopment in our villages. And whom are we depending on? The corporate media, the highly commercialized newspapers, the FM radio, who have no other consideration only to increase their TRP. They have a market orientation. Profit is the single consideration there. How are these corporate and profit-driven mercenary media is expected to think about the welfare of the people. So this has again given rise to haves and have-nots, the digital divide. A university student in Kolkata and a university student in Purulia, a university student in Bhubaneswar and a university student in Koraput. This is again another saga of exploitation and a new class layout. Information have and have-nots. Here comes the very important question that can we depend on the mass media? Very early, John Stuart Mill has expressed his inhibitions about the freedom of expression. We talk so much about the Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, but it is a fact that India has a horrible ranking in the Press Freedom Index. So how do we expect that the media will bring about a positive social transformation? In fact, Noam Chomsky has said that the modern mass media is basically trying to construct the mind. Here I would like to refer to the very popular agenda setting theory of communication. The media basically tries to set the agenda of the people. What we should think, the media wants to dictate. So today we are talking about Deepika Padukone and how she has handled the NCB queries. We are not bothered about the agriculture bill. We are not bothered about the migrant labor. There was in the 70s people who understood that this mass media approach of development communication is not leading to any sort of development, especially in the third world countries. And in the forum of the UNESCO, there was a demand for a new world information and communication order, a just and balanced order of communication. What do I mean by a balanced order of communication? It so happened that about India, the West had a conception that India is a country of serpents. And if you go to India, you will have Kalajar. And we in India, we were only publishing positive news about the West. So there was an imbalance, a bias in the flow, the quality and the quantity of information that was coming from the West to East and going from the East to West. The demand for a new world information and communication order in UNESCO was basically to give priority to the Eastern perspective, to the perspective of the Southern Hemisphere. It was said in the McBride Commission report, Sean McBride was the chairman of the committee which was formed by UNESCO to inquire whether a new order can be prepared or not. In the McBride Commission report, it was recommended that every third world country should have its own cultural policy and its own communication policy. Sadly, this McBride Commission report was not accepted, was not implemented, and till today, India is one of the few countries without a cultural policy and a concrete communication policy. Scholars like Nora Quebral, they demanded that let the focus shift from the electronic technology-based mass media to human communication, where people in blood and flesh are involved, where people communicate to the people, where the individual human qualities are explored. This is exactly those qualities which were explored in our Indian folk and traditional media. Stuart Hall, in his representation theory, very aptly said that whatever you are seeing in the television is a constructed meaning, is an encoded meaning. And who has encoded those meanings? These are not a natural construction of meanings. It is man-made construction of meanings. And meanings are constructed with the motivation not of human welfare, but corporate welfare. But what was the alternative? Everybody was saying, but somebody had to show the way. So the first seminal work with regards to development communication is the Pedagogy of the Oppressed, written by Brazilian Paulo Freire. Freire said that just broadcasting information from top, battering people with information is not enough. The communicator, the sender of the communication and the recipient of the communication, they have to come at the same plane. Freire's work was based on education pedagogy, but I would say that it is no less than a communication pedagogy, and it was used in all fields, starting from education to communication. Unless you come to a same level, you cannot communicate. Today, if I, as a teacher, if I go into the classroom thinking that I am holier than thou, and I'll speak sitting on a podium, and all the students are basically like my subjects, I'll throw my gyan to them, and they will be very happy, and they will be gracious to accept them. That is not a communication. For effective teaching, we need the teacher and the student to be at the same plane. Similarly, for effective communication, we need the people who are the targets of communication to get involved. That is exactly what Freire tried to emphasize. And he gave a concept of conscientization, means where we appeal to our conscience. No one is greater than the other. Everybody is in the same plane. So in Scram's mass media approach, we were talking about a vertical model. The information comes from top to bottom. In Freire's model, we are talking about a circular model, where the information is passing in the same level, and everybody in the circle is involved. Her own social experiences are counted. So from there, again, we come to different experiments, both in practical field as well as theoretical field. I would like to mention here about John Downing, a thoroughly Marxist approach when he says radical media, a rebellious radical media. What is Downing's radical media? He says media should behave like an activist. He says that media should behave like an activist. There should be activism in media to highlight the cause of the poor people. The media should express intent to critique, resist, and transform the establishment. So not a status quo media, not a pro-media, but an anti-media, anti-establishment, which Downing is saying. Moving on to more recent experiments in the Southern Hemisphere theorist, Linje Manyozo. He says in his 3 approaches to communication, media, and development, he says media for development approach, media development approach, and participatory communication approach. When Manyozo says media for development, he is basically saying that the media should make people aware. It should inform people. When he says media development, he is saying the media itself should be developed to become very sharp so that it can penetrate the consciousness of the people. So he is talking about the development of the media itself. So all those people sitting in the television studios, all those Mr. Sardeshais and Mr. Goswamis are not perfect people. They also require development. And participatory communication means it's not like that government is in the top and they will throw arms at the common people who will be very happy to take them. No. The developer and the target of development, both should come in a same plane. Both should engage in a process where everybody will participate. Now I'll speak about two practitioners. Based on Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Augusto Boal, a fellow Brazilian, and Georgy Grotowski of Russia, both of them, they developed very interesting cultural idiom. The name of Boal's idiom was Theater of the Oppressed. You know, the similarity in name. Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Theater of the Oppressed. And Grotowski's idiom was known as Poor Theater. So basically, they were saying that it's not like the drama we know, that someone writes a drama sitting in his own room, then some people, they gather together, they don't know who is the playwright, they read out the dialogues, they memorize the dialogues, they practice the compositions, then light, set, makeup, costume is put, they stand on the stage, the entire auditorium is dark, the actors cannot see the audience. No, not this kind of a theater, but a theater by the villagers of a village which requires a pakka road, which requires a tube well. They know their own problems. They write their own script. They come together. They discuss. They write their own script. They don't write also sometimes. They discuss their own script. We need a tube well. They go to the collector's office, call the collector. They perform the drama right in front of him. This is community media. A media born out of community, performed by the people of the community. Grotowski says, I don't need a set. I don't need costume. I don't need a hall or a stage to do a drama. I can do a drama in my room only. And he says, I don't need dialogues also. I have the body. I would examine street theater performance by the Desia artists of Koraput district. People all over the community, they gathered in front of their houses. The tribal artists, see on the left are the theater artists and on the right are the Desia singers. They composed special songs and special drama which contained the messages of COVID-19. What were the messages? Put on the mask, maintain physical distancing, wash your hands. It was done in the traditional style. In Desia Nato, basically the plots are all mythological. The Shiva, the Vishnu, the Brahma, all the Puranas, the stories from Puranas are basically depicted. So the outer structure is the same, but the inner content contains the message of development. The songs are also like that. Many of you know that during the Shravana month, there are Kauriwalas in Odisha who walk from great distances, from northern Odisha to southern Odisha, with kauris or sticks, bamboo shafts attached with kalash on their shoulders, and they walk for thousands of miles, and they reach the temple of Gupteshwar near the oldest Shiva Lingam. When they move, in order to keep up their spirits and energy level, they sing a song which is known as the song of the Kauriwalas. That is exactly the tune which is used for spreading COVID awareness. So when a song is sung in the Kauriwala tune with the message of COVID, all the villagers, they come to know what is the message and they understand. And if you want to see the results, this is how physical distancing has been maintained in the Koraput district of Odisha. This is a scene from a tribal village where people have come to take pure drinking water from their tube wells. There is only one tube well in the village, and all the women of the village have been instructed to maintain physical distancing and see the way they are maintaining it. What do you say? Is this not development? Is this not consciousness? Is this not transformation? The figures are much, much lower than Bhubaneswar or Cuttack, Sambalpur or Rourkela. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that in the post-COVID situation, the traditional media, the folk media, which I was describing in the beginning of my presentation, will take a rebirth. It will come in its new avatar. And what will be the features? I'm saying the new normal of traditional media, CPTR. Now you would say, what happens to our mass media? Why are you talking about a new traditional media? I am saying because I think all of you already have understood the amount of misinformation and disinformation which has been provided by these corporate commercial channels. The amount of terror every day that is being spread regarding COVID, and it is causing mental health problem to all of us. A person who doesn't have COVID is also terrorized. Today we are basically, more than COVID, we are suffering from terror. I would say that the mainstream commercial mass media, the television channel, the newspaper, the radio is a complete failure. And we need a new people's media. And I look up to our own cultural idioms to be the new and the honest media. That is why I say CPTR. C for community. This is a media which is born out of the people. The people will themselves, they will create the content of the media and they will produce it in their own language, which they can relate to, not in a foreign language. P for passion. Do you remember Ganga Kishore Bhattacharya, Brahmo Bandhav Upadhyay, Bal Gangadhar Tilak? Yes, I am talking about the editors of the pre-independence Indian newspapers who were jailed because they did not fear to publish against the British. That is the passion today our media doesn't have. I am speaking about T, the truth. Is truth not the backbone of media? Do we not open the newspapers for truth? Do we not switch on the TV for truth? Where is the truth? The truth is gone. Now we have post-truth. Now we have fact-checking classes by Google. They are teaching us to check whether a particular report published in the media is true or not. Gandhi did not advocate that kind of a journalism. So we want to get back to Gandhi's principles, canons of media. And that is there in our own folk and traditional and cultural idioms. Coming to money. Every media needs money to exist. I am saying crowdfunding is the answer. The people's media will be survived by the people. Have you ever wondered how Jatra has survived over all these years? How has Gombhira survived over all these years? Nobody sponsored it, but it's there. It's going on and on. Badal Sarkar and Utpal Datta, I have mentioned earlier, both of them were inspired by German playwright Bertolt Brecht, who actually had to leave Germany due to Hitler's fascist policies. Brecht said, art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it. Can you expect the mainstream commercial media to do that? I expect our cultural media to do that. When Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came to see Girish Chandra Ghosh's theatre, he blessed Vinodini Dashi, the doyen of Bengali theatre. And So on those days, it was said that only prostitutes were brought to perform in the stage. Ramakrishna blessed Vinodini, and he said famously, theatre loko shikke hoy. Theatre educates masses. This applies not only for theatre, but for all the traditional medium of communication. Now, there are two very important considerations when we speak about cultural idioms. First of all, how to prepare the message, and the second is how to disseminate the message. I would say that the cultural idiom, should always try to bring a realization from within the human psyche, not to impose. Whenever there is an effort to impose, it is not art. A true artistic creation brings realization from within, transformation from within, development from within. When I read the autobiography of Noti Binodini, Amar Kotha, I learned to respect women. I learned that even prostitutes are human beings. We all go through such realization when we read good books, when we read good literature, when we watch a good play, or when we watch a good cinema. Din Bodoler Pala caused such a transformation that it helped the leftist forces to come to power in West Bengal. The same can be said about the drama Winkle Twinkle and Poshu Khamar by Bratto Basu and Orpita Ghosh, when there was a change in 2011 prior to that. So, artistic medium brings about a transformation from within. That should be the very purpose of cultural idiom. If it cannot do that, it fails in the purpose. Any song, any play, any content which tries to impose is a failure. That is why Rabindranath Tagore, he wrote a very interesting article, Rango Mancho, in 1902. Although it was about theatre, but it applies to all kinds of cultural idioms. He said, Chitrapote noy, chittopote anko. Means he was basically trying to say that the content of the art should appeal to the cognitive faculties of human beings. A very good example. I would like to conclude my presentation with this example by Lalun Fakir. So when he says that Sob loke kয় লালন কি জাত সংসারে, what more stronger lines do you have to indicate that human beings are, after all, human beings? Really look forward that in today's troubled time, the government policy and the individual inclination, we will get back to our roots, and the discipline of mass communication and journalism will look back to the roots of communication, will explore our own cultural idioms, and will take ourselves collectively towards honest and truthful media for the welfare of the people, by the people. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Saurabh Gupta, for this wonderful presentation of yours. It was really quite interesting and intriguing. It was quite, I suppose, enlightening for our students also. So now I suppose the session is open for questions. So if we can have some questions for our speaker.
জসমিত,
হ্যাঁ জিলগত স্যার বলুন।
আমি একটা প্রশ্ন করি ফার্স্টে।
হ্যাঁ।
One congratulation, Dr. Saurabh Gupta. I would express my warm and emotional expression letter. Before of it, I will ask Mr. Gupta. Presently, media is now facing a threat that is global threat, I think, and media has been purchased and it is paid. Other side, in presently, all folk games, all folk culture has been collapsed, and media is unable to play a neutral role to create a ideology. Already, we know Carl Deutsch. Carl Deutsch is the father of the communication theory in international relation, and presently it has been transformed into a global media, various types of electronic media. What is the future, and how media will help us to create an ideology against distorted form of the democracy like mobocracy, tyranny? That's my query. That is my uh, question. Is say something else?
Okay, thank you for this important question, Jilkotna. Uh, Basically, yes, you are right. The situation is extremely bleak and dark. But as I said, that if you see the history of the world, whenever this kind of a situation has come, the people themselves, they have brought out the solution. It's a similar kind of a situation which had happened during the 30s and 40s of the last decade also. And from there, a cultural upsurge took place in India through the formation of the anti-fascist writers organization and bodies like Indian People's Theatre Association. We had films like Balraj Sahani's. Then
Just I'm interrupting you. Uh, our Prime Minister already declared that one country, one nation, এক দেশ, এক বাজার, এক কৃষি, এক মূল্য, এক দেশ, এক গণতন্ত্র, এক মানুষ, এক ভোট। তো মিডিয়াও তো সবকিছু ওই এক হয়ে যাবে, সরকারের পক্ষেই হয়ে যাবে ইন ফিউচার। এবং প্রেজেন্টলি দে আর ইনসিস্টিং। তো এটা আমাদের দেশেও ঘটছে, আমেরিকাতেও ঘটছে এবং গ্লোবালিও এটা হচ্ছে। তাই এই যে কনটেক্সট অফ যে এলপিজি, লিবারালাইজেশন, প্রাইভেটাইজেশন এন্ড গ্লোবালাইজেশন এবং ওপেন মার্কেট ইকোনমি বেসড, আমরা তো একটা মানে মানে উই আর ভেরি, কি বলবো, হতাশ।
I can understand your despair. As I just allow me to complete my answer. I am taking a cue of my answer from your question only. See, there was a problem in every millennium. There has been these problems. What I am saying is that it is the people who have upsurged and given rise to a new people's media. When there are always two kinds of media in the place. One is the pro-government media, where it is supported by the state, and there is always something known as the other voice, the different voice. So the state will always try to curb the other and different voice, but it will always be there. If you remember, the hungry generation, the literature people will be very ably, they will describe about the hungry generation. Or if I say about the Naxalite movement of our country, if I say about the underground cinema of the world, these are all mediums which were not favored and supported by the state. However, there is always this equation, this chemistry, this synthesis and catharsis going on between different kinds of media in the country. We also have to remember that we have a very young population. We have not seen yet what is the mood of the young population, what they want. So it will not be wise to call it a last shot. I am saying that always different kinds of media will coexist with different political ideology, different concerns, and people will find out a way to express their voice, to raise their concerns. So I think there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, we have to admit that the market forces, they have captured the media scenario totally. But still, I can tell you that there is something called Radio Koraput. One journalist, one individual person in the Koraput district of Odisha, he runs an internet-based radio platform called Radio Koraput. It is heard over Facebook to millions of people across the world. That person does not take one farthing from anybody. There is no sponsorship, but he is promoting the tribal interest. So that media is also there, and big corporate media is also there.
Thank you, sir. So there is this question from Kamal Khemka, sir. The question is, what deep impact does the cultural idioms have in the present world?
Well, that is what I have been explaining throughout my presentation. Basically, whether the impact is deep or not, it is very difficult to assess because we don't have any methodology to assess whether what is the impact of culture in our human psyche. But still, let me cite one example. When a few days before in the Kalahandi district of Odisha, I'm sorry, I am again and again referring to Odisha because for the last 8 years I have been working in Odisha only. So I am very well acquainted with Odisha. But this is a universal example which I am going to give. In the Kalahandi district of Odisha, one man took his wife, pregnant wife, for delivery to a district headquarter hospital. And the wife died, basically. There was no ambulance or no vehicle or no system, no stretcher to take the corpse to the proper place for cremation or for the last rites. So the man, he wrapped up the corpse in a cloth, took the dead body on his shoulder, and started walking. What I am trying to say through this example is that after this incident was flashed, after some days this incident was flashed, something similar happened in the Malkangiri district of Odisha, another very, very backward district. Malkangiri. When the lady died in Malkangiri, this time the collector of the district, he did not allow what happened in Kalahandi. He came with the vehicle himself. He drove his own car and he helped the person who was in need. Now, I don't know whether that particular district magistrate, he has read Tagore, or he has read Bertolt Brecht, or he has seen a film by Mrinal Sen. But somewhere down the line, there must be some cultural impact which has led to a transformation. That only he can say.
Okay, sir. So I have a question for you, sir. My question is regarding the origin of street theater. You also said in your lecture that the government have been using street theater for their own propaganda. So do you consider that kind of theater also to be a street kind of a theater? Or what exactly is the origin of street theater?
See, as I said, the street theater is one of the earliest forms. it is there from the ancient human civilization, because we did not have stages from the beginning. Doing theater on the stage is essentially an European phenomenon. In early Greek and Roman theater, they had something known as the arena. But in India and in the East, theaters were always performed on open spaces. Hate mate hate. Later on, after the independence, the government gave it a formal structure to use it as a, I won't say propaganda, but as a means of development communication. So it was an applied form of theatre, Indian theatre, an applied form. It is known as street theatre. Utpal Datta also performed his theatre that he labeled it as agitprop, means agitational and propaganda. He said that I believe in a particular ideology and I will do theatre only to propagate that ideology. But if you see Badal Sarkar, he never said that I believe in a particular party line or a particular ideology. So his theatre was a very aesthetic theatre. It had artistic presentation, but it was also performed in Karjan Park. It was performed in Theosophical Society, in Loreto Day School. So the space does not matter. Street theatre is basically, Safdar Hashmi also did street theatre in front of the factory gates. He was taking up labor issues. So basically, street theatre can be told as an applied form of traditional Indian theatre, which used to happen in open spaces.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question is from Professor Shreyoshi Guha Roy. Her question is, it's a long question. We know that development cannot take place if the society is unaware of its cultural background. But today's urbanized society is losing connect with its respective cultural background. In which way can we get to revive our lost cultural heritage?
First of all, I'm very happy. On a personal note, I'll start my answer on a personal note, because Shreyoshi is my student, my direct student, when I used to teach in Gurudash College.
Yes.
So I'm very happy and proud at the same time that today I hear Shreyoshi being introduced as Professor Shreyoshi. I wish her a very bright future. Shreyoshi,
thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Shreyoshi, we can make a change. Yes, you are right. We are uprooted right now from our own culture. We can make a change only when people like you, when you teach development communication to your students in the classes, don't only tell about Doordarshan and Akashvani and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. Please also tell them about Jatra, Jhumur, Alkap, Bhadu, Tushu. That is
absolutely,
the only way. That is the only way.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So the next question is from Professor Riya Bhattacharya. Her question is, from the beginning, media is considered to be an essential tool for communication. As it is developing day by day, the term fake news is also becoming very popular. So my question is, how fake news works as a political machinery to tarnish the integrity of journalists? This is the first question, and it has a subsection. And how the journalists today are tarnishing real journalism.
Well, trust me, madam, there is very little the journalist can do. Whatever you see the journalists doing nowadays, they are not doing nothing from their own. They have stringent guidelines. The channels or the newspapers where they work, they are running after profit. They are running after cheap popularity. And to get TRP, they can go to any extent. So the journalists are categorically instructed to produce sensational news. Even if it is fake, if it attracts people, it is justified. This is the ideology, or you can say, through which media industry is born. The image is already tarnished. That a reader or a consumer of media like you are raising this question in this forum, that itself shows that the image is tarnished. And already for COVID, the media industry is going through a very bad patch. Especially, I know many people who have stopped watching television because they have realized that watching television news will only misguide them and will only instill terror and fear in their mind. Many people have stopped watching television. Many journalists have been retrenched in recent times. They have lost their job. That everything is due to this lack of credibility. And that is why I said that truth and honesty lies in our own folk and traditional media. We are looking forward to a new media scenario where the people themselves will create their own media.
Thank you, sir. Sir,
Jasmeet, I have a question.
Go on with your.
Thank you, Saurabh Babu, for your enlightened speech. I have a question. We live in a globalized age where new media increasing speedily. তাহলে এই জায়গায় দাঁড়িয়ে আমার একটাই প্রশ্ন যেটা থাকছে যে যাত্রা বা থিয়েটার, এই যে ট্র্যাডিশনাল কমিউনিকেশন, ট্র্যাডিশনাল মিডিয়া, এগুলো কি আস্তে আস্তে শেষের দিকে চলে যাচ্ছে, বা এটাকে আমরা কিভাবে রিকভার করতে পারি? আজকে মডার্ন ছেলেমেয়েরা যাত্রা, থিয়েটার, এই যাত্রা বা আপনি যেগুলো বললেন গম্ভীরা, আলকাপ, এগুলো ছেলেমেয়েরা জানছেই না, বা আমাদের যারা ইউজি বা পিজি কোর্সেও এই বিষয়গুলোকেও তেমন গুরুত্ব আমরা দেখছি না সিলেবাসের মধ্যে, যেটা আমরা পড়াতে হয়। এই যে আমরা আমাদের যে শিকড় ট্র্যাডিশনাল ফোক মিডিয়া বা ট্র্যাডিশনাল কমিউনিকেশন মিডিয়া, আমরা কি আস্তে আস্তে কয়েক জেনারেশনের পর কি ভুলতেই বসবো, না এর কোনো একটা আমরা আরো পাবো? এটাই আমার একটা জানার বিষয়।
আসলে
আমি আপনার কাছে একটু বাংলায় শুনতে চাইছি, ছেলেমেয়েদের সবাই আছে, এই জন্য বাংলায় প্রশ্নটা করলাম।
হ্যাঁ, আসলে এটা একটা খুব চমৎকার সুপরিকল্পিত ষড়যন্ত্র। এটা ষড়যন্ত্র এই জন্য বলছি, তার কারণ হচ্ছে এই যে আমাদের ফোক আমাদের যে লোকমাধ্যম, এই লোকমাধ্যম কখনোই কম্প্রোমাইজ করে না, বা একে কিনে নেওয়া খুব মুশকিল। যেমন আমি তো একটু নাটকের কথা একটু বেশি বলেছি, তার কারণ একটা, যেমন আমি নিজে প্র্যাকটিশনার একজন, সেটা যেমন একটা কারণ। আরেকটা কারণ হচ্ছে আনকম্প্রোমাইজিং নেচার। ইভেন মিউজিকও কিন্তু প্রায় নিজেকে বাজারের কাছে সঁপে দিয়েছে, বাণিজ্যিক মাধ্যম হয়ে দাঁড়িয়েছে। কিন্তু থিয়েটারকে এখনো অব্দি কেনা যায়নি। আমি জানি না ভবিষ্যতে কেনা যাবে কিনা। সিনেমা দু ধরনের আছে। এক ধরনের সিনেমা যা কম্প্রোমাইজ করে বসে আছে, যাদের উদ্দেশ্যই হচ্ছে টাকা রোজগার করা, কিন্তু তার বিপ্রতীপে আরেক ধরনের সিনেমাও কিন্তু আছে। তো আমি বলছি যে দেখুন, এই লোকমাধ্যমগুলি কখনোই মরে যাবে না। এরা কিছুদিন দুর্বল হয়ে থাকতে পারে, কিন্তু মরে কখনোই যাবে না, কারণ এদের হাজার বছরের, লক্ষ বছরের ঐতিহ্য আছে। মানুষ বাঁচিয়ে রাখবে, কারণ এটা তো মানুষের মাধ্যম। আপনি যতই নিউ মিডিয়া আনুন না কেন, যত ইন্টারনেটে আনুন না কেন, কিন্তু আজকেও আসানসোলের একটা গ্রামে কোল মাইনের কাছে যদি যাত্রা কোম্পানির আসর বসে, রাত্রেবেলা সারা রাত ধরে শ্রমিকরা সেখানে ভিড় জমাবে। সেটা এর মধ্যে একটা ইকুয়েশন আছে, একটা কেমিস্ট্রি আছে। ওই যে বলছিলাম যেটা, যে রিলেট করার যে ব্যাপারটা, সাংস্কৃতিক যে ফ্যাক্টরটা, সেইটা যদি নিউ মিডিয়া তো একটা বাণিজ্যিক মাধ্যম, তারা তো সবসময় চেষ্টা করবে মানুষকে ভুল পথে চালিত করার। এটা ঠিক যে কিছু মানুষ ভুল পথে চালিত হচ্ছেন, হয়তো কিছু না, বেশিরভাগ মানুষই ভুল পথে চালিত হচ্ছে।
এই জায়গাটাই খুব
হ্যাঁ, তো কিন্তু একটা সময় আসবে, শিক্ষার প্রসার যত ঘটবে, মিডিয়া লিটারেসি যত বাড়বে, আস্তে আস্তে মানুষ কিন্তু বুঝতে পারবে। আর আমাদের সিলেবাসের কথা যেটা আপনি বললেন, আমাদের দেশের দুর্ভাগ্য হচ্ছে যে এই যে জার্নালিজম অ্যান্ড মাস কমিউনিকেশন নামক এই যে জগা খিচুড়ি একটি ডিসিপ্লিন, এটা পুরোপুরি আমরা যখন আমাদের সিলেবাস তৈরি করেছি, আমরা বিদেশের অন্ধ অনুকরণে আমাদের সিলেবাস তৈরি করেছি। আমাদের সাবজেক্টটা কোনোদিন আজ অব্দি ইন্ডিয়ান পার্সপেক্টিভকে মাথায় রেখে তৈরি করা হয়নি। আমরা মূলত ক্যামেরা কি করে চালাতে হয়, মাইকটা কি করে ধরতে হয়, কি করে সেজে গুজে ক্যামেরার সামনে দাঁড়িয়ে ওই যাকে বলে কলকাতিয়া বাংলায় কিছু কথাবার্তা মানে জার্গন কি করে বলতে হবে, কি করে মানে যত রকমের মানে ওয়েস্টার্ন প্র্যাকটিসেস আছে সেটাকে অন্ধ অনুকরণ করতে হবে। আজ অব্দি একটা ইন্ডিয়ান থিওরি হলো না আমাদের, ভারতীয় দর্শন, ভারতীয় তত্ত্ব নেই কমিউনিকেশনে, আমরা সব বিদেশের থিওরি পড়ছি।
একদম একদম।
ফলে সিলেবাসেরও একটা পরিবর্তনের প্রয়োজন আছে।
না এটা আমার খুবই লাগে, মানে আমাদের ট্র্যাডিশনাল মিডিয়ার জায়গাটা, কমিউনিকেশনের জায়গাটা, মানে আমাদের সাবজেক্টে যেটা যেহেতু থিয়েটার বা অন্যান্য প্রাচীন যে ফোক কমিউনিকেশনের,
ওটা ইচ্ছে করেই করা হয়েছে,
লিমিটেশন,
ওটা ইচ্ছে করেই করা হয়েছে। এর পেছনে নানা রকম কারণ আছে, মানে আমাদের শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থাও কিছুটা দায়ী, আমরা নিজেরাও কিছুটা দায়ী, সবাই কিছু না কিছু দায় সবারই আছে। এটা একটা সুপরিকল্পিত চক্র।
ধন্যবাদ, অশেষ ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টের এই আজকে এই ওয়েবিনারে থাকার জন্য। নমস্কার, থ্যাংক ইউ। এবার জাসমিন কন্টিনিউ।
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ জন। আচ্ছা স্যার, এটা আমার লাস্ট প্রশ্ন। আমাদের এখানে অনেক স্টুডেন্টসরা আছেন যারা ফেসবুক, হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ, ইনস্টাগ্রামে আছেন। অনেক সময় আমরা কিছু নিউজ শেয়ার করি যেটা একদমই ঠিক নয়, তাহলে ওই ফেক নিউজ থেকে আমরা কি করে নিজেকে বাঁচিয়ে রাখতে পারবো? মানে এমন কি কোনো সাইটস আছে যেখানে আমরা চেক করতে পারি যে এটা ফেক কি ঠিক বা কিছু একটা?
এর জন্য একটা 3 ঘন্টার ওয়ার্কশপ করতে হবে, এটাকে বলা হয় ফ্যাক্ট চেকিং ওয়ার্কশপ। ওটা করলেই তোমরা শিখে যাবে কি করে মানে ফেক নিউজ আর ট্রু নিউজকে ডিফারেন্সিয়েট করা যায়। সৌভাগ্যের বিষয় যে গুগল আর আইলিডস এই দুটো সংস্থা এরা এই ধরনের ওয়ার্কশপ গুলো কন্ডাক্ট করছে অলরেডি সারা ভারতবর্ষে এবং পৃথিবীর অন্যান্য জায়গাতেও, মানে কয়েক হাজার এই ধরনের ওয়ার্কশপ কন্ডাক্ট করা হয়েছে। আমার যেটা সবচাইতে ভালো লাগছে যে এই যে মেইন স্ট্রিম কমার্শিয়াল মিডিয়ার যে হিপোক্রেসি এবং মিথ্যাচার, এইটা কিন্তু এক্সপোজড হয়ে গেছে। না হলে আজকে সত্য মিথ্যা যাচাইয়ের জন্য ওয়ার্কশপ হচ্ছে, এটাই তো সবচাইতে বড় প্রমাণ যে আমরা যে মিডিয়া অ্যাক্সেস করি, যে চ্যানেলগুলো দেখি, আর ফেসবুক এবং সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া তো মানে কি বলবো, ওটা হচ্ছে গুজবের আখড়া এবং মিস ইনফরমেশন আর ডিসইনফরমেশনের মানে একটা বিশাল হাব ওটা। It is very difficult to actually identify what is true and what is not true. But I would suggest all to do these workshops.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So
ছাত্রীদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে একটু যদি কেউ করে,
আমি জিজ্ঞেস করে নিচ্ছি। স্টুডেন্টসদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, স্টুডেন্টস ইফ ইউ আর প্রেজেন্ট অনলাইন, আমার মনে হয় না ওদের কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে। ইনফ্যাক্ট ওদের কমেন্ট সেকশনে কোনো প্রশ্ন নেই, ঠিক আছে? সো আই থিঙ্ক আই উড নাও রিকোয়েস্ট আওয়ার IQAC coordinator, Professor Jilkot Mamun sir, to kindly give the vote of thanks. Over to you, Jilkot sir.
Good evening to you all. I'm very lucky person in this moment. I'm very glad to digitally meet Dr. Saurabh Gupta. And already initially he talked about 22 years ago at Kolani. That was my golden moment.
Yes.
Golden moment. That
it was
time,
my golden moment also.
I had with a few days. Okay, so I will talk with you over telephone.
Right.
Now I will finish my more formal duty. It's a immense pleasure for me that I have gotten a great opportunity to express vote of thanks to this national webinar. The name of the national webinar or issue of the national webinar is Communication for Development, Analyzing the Role of Cultural Idiom. It is organized by Journalism and Mass Communication Department of RBC College for Women with the assistance of I2SC. So at first, I do honor my all colleagues, all resource persons, organizers, our beloved principal, and our guardian president, Dr. Ratan Nandi sir, and all my colleagues. At first, before expressing vote of thanks, I do express my emotional feelings to Mr. Gupta. He has kept in memory to me as a little person like me 22 years ago. It's a very good luck for me, and it's a very matter of proud. And in this moment, I am very lucky. And now he delivered a very lively presentation, and it's not only lively, it's very comprehensively. He has given a chalk out all aspects, traditional media, cultural aspects, local festivals and folk festivals, folk media, cinema, theater, various types of folk song, and he quoted Lalon Poker. It's a very heartfelt dialogue, I think. And side by side, he has alarmed us to aware us about the scenario of the globe, and presently in the context of the COVID-19 and context of the pandemic situation, already whole world, more or less 205 countries are facing like this problem. And in this context, a few persons who are known as corporate sectors, they are trying to grasp the market, and they are trying to capture the media anyhow. Already he has mentioned it, and he enlighten us in various aspects. And presently, our countries is facing. Already, he quoted Article number 19, right to speech and right to freedom, very important part, and we should know about it. And so, I think he has given a very bright, lively, and comprehensive delivery. I am very excited to hear him, and I express my thanks, heartfelt thanks to Professor Gupta, and it's my rejoicable moment. And already he clarified the social and political and economic perspective and present context in the basis of the market economy and the basis of the electronic high profile society based, high profile media based society, and how it is restricted by the uh, corporate sector or a type of government. I do express my heartfelt thanks again, Professor Gupta. Next, I do express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ratan Kumar Nondi sir. He has all times supported to us to organize huge and various types of academic program and various types of co-curricular program. And presently, in the context of the COVID-19, we are we have organized so many programs, and which is known as webinar. All time he has extended his liberal hand, and he insisted us to implement the various programs. I hope in future he will do much more as an academician, as a social reformer, and as a good teacher. I do express my heartfelt thanks to our beloved principal, Dr. Lorna Mukhopadhyay. Uh, all time she insisted us to organize various academic programs for the interest of the students, teachers, and academic person. She has been smoothly guiding us to exist academic environment in the college in the context of the COVID-19. Not only that, she actively conducting us to continue a better academic environment, to create a better academic. I expect in future she will give us a positive guideline for the interest of the college, not only college, for the interest of the student, teacher, and all persons. I do express my heartfelt thanks to Professor Ujjwal Ganguly. head of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication of RBC College for Women. He has organized with the cooperation of his colleagues and departmental colleagues. He has organized this program, and so it's a very good and positive in this moment. And other side, I do express a special heart of thanks, Mr. Ujjwal Ganguly, because he brought Professor Gupta and digitally melted us, and I am very glad, and I do express my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Ganguly. And Joshmit Singh.
Thanks.
Dr. Joshmit Singh is a professor of the Department of English. All time he has acted as an all-rounder, and all time, not only this program, from the very beginning to till now, in a context, in the period of the pandemic situation, at the early stages of the pandemic situation to till now, not only in this context, in practically and visually and physically, in our all programs, in our colleges, of our college, he very positive. He is very positive. In future, I do expect that he will with us, and I do express my heartfelt thanks to Jasmeet Singh and congratulations. And next, I do express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Tulima De, Mridul Bhomik, and Shohardo Rai. They are the technical assistant. They had given their full effort to technically. So I do express my heartfelt thanks to them. I do express my thanks. Without their patience, this program would not be success. Uh, 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 all participants, they have given their full patience to organize these programs, to finish these programs. So I do express my heartfelt thanks to my all colleagues, all students, all participants. Last, I do express my thanks to Google Meet. In where in this we have used this platform, and we are using this platform to organize this program. Lastly, I do express my again heartfelt thanks and one congratulation, Dr. Saurav Gupta. I'll talk you over phone, and I hope that in future we will organize a workshop. Already it has been delivered by our colleague Dr. Jasmeet Singh, and already you have given a solution, and we will try to organize another workshop or program after this situation. And I expect and I hope that you will come, and I will get you, and physically I will do express my emotional feelings. I wait for that. Thank you all.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
With this, we end this webinar. Thank you all. Thank you all.